Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome everybody to the Safiyya Society Nothing But Facts live stream on a warm and toasty Wednesday in the great state of New Jersey. We are located in the city of New Brunswick, which also is the host of Rutgers University and their medical center, and also their medical school, Robert Wood Johnson Medical Center, which is the university hospital where all the medical students go study. Big hospital, massive, so many buildings. We're 1 mile down from there on Somerset Street. Soup Kitchen is below us on the first floor, and we're on the third floor. It's a very warm day out, and Robert Wood Johnson is also known as, I call it Bob Wood. So that's where we're at in the great state of New Jersey. And you could also come to the great state of New Jersey and study Arabic with us all summer long, all of July and all of August, hanging out, attending every live stream, attending Arabic classes 3 nights a week and once online on the weekend. And you could basically take part in all the things that we do here. All right, we got lunches, we have dhikrs, we have gatherings, we have majalis, we have trips, we have all sorts of things going on. It's a very active community, mashallah. It's nonstop. It's like, feel like, those squirrels that are on a treadmill. Those little squirrels that they put on a treadmill, or on a chipmunk on a wheel that just doesn't stop. Right, that's how it is. We have a break in Shawwal right after Ramadan, and maybe a winter break. Today's program, let's get to, again, the Arabic program. You could sign up for it. Go to darulfats.org. There are a lot of people signing up. It's a great way to make friends and hang out with the community and get, something different. Come out to the great state of New Jersey. We got beaches. We got everything. We got New York City. Today's program, first thing is first. What is the update on Rafah? That's what we're going to cover first. The second, what happened there? The second thing we're going to cover is that we're doing a flour drive, basically flour to make bread, to make food. There's a drive that's going on, and we're going to try to meet the needs that they have there. They were able to bring in a lot of flour into Gaza. All right, so let's first start with the update. Israeli troops were battled. Hamas fought back yesterday on the outskirts of the Gaza Strip's crowded southern city of Rafah on Wednesday. And Washington said it had held up a shipment of powerful bombs to Israel to prevent civilian casualties. Okay, a claim, who knows whether that's true or false. But if you have the map from yesterday, if not, then it's okay. But just to give people an idea of where Rafah is in relation to Sinai, which is that triangle peninsula, and then you have Egypt under that. Of course, Sinai is part of Egypt, but you have the mainland of Egypt. The U.S., which aims to stave off a full Israeli invasion of Rafah, said it believes a revised Hamas ceasefire proposal may lead to a breakthrough in an impasse in negotiations. So this attack on the people, on the Palestinian people, is probably a way for Israel to get more concessions. Okay, which is, I guess, a step up, because usually they just steal, right? So they're actually, if that analysis is true, which I don't think that analysis is really accurate or sound, because since when is Israel truly involved in negotiations? What they want something, they just take it. Israeli tanks rolled across the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt on Tuesday, cutting off a vital aid route. Okay, the only exit for the evacuation of wounded patients. A UN official said no fuel or aid had entered the Gaza Strip due to the military operation. All right, it's a disastrous humanitarian crisis, they said. So, this is against the law. You're not allowed to basically go out and starve the civilians of the people that you're dealing with, the civilians of the enemy that you're fighting. All right, Israel's threatened a major assault to defeat thousands of Hamas fighters, it says, are holed up there. Okay. Of course, any claim that they make, how do they verify it? But the city is also a refuge for hundreds of thousands. I think it's in the million, past a million Palestinians who have fled combat, right, from the north. They crammed into tented camps, makeshift shelters, suffering from shortages of food, water, medicine. All right. The maternity hospital in Rafah, where nearly half of Gaza's birth takes place, has stopped admitting patients. All right. The UN Population Fund is extremely worried. Hamas said its fighters were battling with Israeli forces in the east, and Islamic Jihad's fighters attacked Israeli soldiers and military vehicles with heavy artillery near the airport. Reuters, come on. What wording are you using here? They attacked Israeli soldiers. Okay, if it was the other way around, they would have said IDF soldiers are defending themselves, right? That's how they would have put it. Hamas were battling with Israeli forces. How about defending themselves from Israeli forces? Just consider the language they always use in these biased sources. You know, if that's the case, why am I even reading it? But they tend to have information here. Let's go to Jazeera, see what they have. Jazeera is also biased, but I like the bias. Okay. Rafah's largest hospital, An-Najjar, has ceased operations, and the city's remaining healthcare facilities have only 3 days of fuel left. People are pouring into the central Gaza by the thousands. Okay, they're going up again after Israel's seizure of the Rafah crossing. All right, Rafah incursion looms. Some streets look like a ghost town. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are on the move again. So they were ordered to come south. Now they're ordered to go back up north. All right, about 1.5 million people are sheltered there, raising the prospect of mass casualties. It's just such a yucky mess. You don't know what's going on. There first, everyone comes south. Now Rafah is going to be attacked. Now go back up north. Here, a man out of 35 years old. He says, we don't fear death or martyrdom, but we have kids to take care of. And we want them to live another day. Right? And when this war ends, we rebuild the city. Rebuild the city, subhanAllah. It's rubble, literally. How many miles is Gaza up and down? Can you look that up for me, please? It's very small, right? It's very small. But it's all rubble. Let's see how many miles it is. Yeah. If a deal for a lasting ceasefire is not concluded, Israel will be exposed as the true spoiler of peace, and the U.S. as a dishonest broker. There are already indications that the two are playing a game, trying to sell the global public unconvincing narratives that Israel was not aware of the deal that was proposed. So this is what you expect. Despite the appearance of public surprise and puzzlement by both, it may well be that they knew and expected what would happen next. Okay? So all of Gaza is 25 miles down. Right, this is 25-mile strip. Yeah, it's a 25-mile strip. Bernie Sanders backs the U.S. pausing arms shipment to Israel. The progressive U.S. senator has voiced support for Biden's decision to halt an arms shipment to Israel. You know how they play these games? They halted. What happened? Are we off? Huh? We're on? Okay. Yeah, okay. They halted an arms shipment. Who knows if they halted, like, that's it. Just one. But the rest they're going. So that they could say, we halted an arms shipment. All right. Did they halt all arms shipment? You have to be very careful because they always play games. Okay. Bernie Sanders says U.S. must now use all of its leverage to demand an immediate ceasefire, the end of the attacks on Rafah, and the immediate delivery of massive amounts massive amounts of humanitarian aid to people living in desperation. Our leverage is clear. Over the years, the U.S. has provided tens of billions of dollars in military aid. We can no longer be complicit in Netanyahu's horrific war against the Palestinian people. All right, that's good from Bernie Sanders, who seems to be one of those few who has a conscience. Okay. AIPAC hits out at Biden's decision. AIPAC is very unhappy with this. She says that Biden is emboldening Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah and undermines America's commitment to all our policy. They're never happy with anything, these people. All right, that's enough for this. It's just extremely messy, the whole situation, to be quite honest with you. Extremely messy. All right. What are we going to cover next? We're going to shift gears completely now to Sirah. We're going to shift gears to what we've been doing before with the Sirah of the Messenger, peace be upon him. And read a little bit from that. Mrs. S., you can come for what you want of the Arabic intensive, you know. Of course, we have the dua of Wednesday that we're also going to do. And we're also going to answer a question from a brother who said, all I hear about from the Maliki school of thought in terms of their usul is amal ahl al-Medina. What else do they rely on? So we'll read that a little bit. All right, so let's take a look at the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We said he had 6 aunts: Atika, Umayma, Barra, Safiyya, Al-Bayda, and Arwa. Okay. Al-Bayda, Hakim. Al-Bayda is Hakim. Her name is Al-Bayda. Al-Bayda and Hakim are one and the same. All right. So let's take a look at Atika. And here you see where a lot of people name their names. So the cousin of the Prophet, he had 3 cousins, male cousins from Atika: Zubayr, Abdullah, and Qariba. Okay. All right. Next aunt, Umayma, she had Zainab, and she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's Zainab bint Jahsh. All right. And who conducted that marriage? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. How? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ahzab, فَلَمَّا قَضَى زَيْدٌ مِّنْهَا وَطَرًا زَوَّجْنَاكَهَا. When Zayd had ended that marriage to her, we have married her to you. This is also why a marriage contract, when you utter the words of marriage, what's called the ijab and the qabul, you put it in the past tense. Zawajnaka. So let's say a man doesn't have an imam. There's no imam. How can I get married without an imam? Well, you can marry yourself to the girl by say zawajtuki li nafsi. I have married you unto myself. Okay. She then says, I have accepted, in the past tense. Right, because here the Quran puts it in the past tense. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ conducted them. So, what's an imam or a ma'dhoon is not one of the pillars of marriage. Many people don't know this. The wali is what's important. The wali, the male guardian of the girl, if she was never married before. In Maliki Fiqh, the male guardian of the girl has to be there, married or not. Whether she was married or not, except that if she's not married, if she was never married, if she was married before, he can't stop her. He still has to be there, but he can't stop her. That's the difference. If she was never married before, then he can stop it. His approval is necessary. Okay? Because she doesn't know that world of men. And the assumption is, in the Islamic framework of things, is that the dad wants what's best for his daughter and knows what's best in the world of men. Keep in mind, the Western paradigm of things has basically villainized the man, made dads dumb and abusive. Well, that's your perception of things, right? That's their assumption of things. The Sharia assumes that dads care about their daughters, know about the world of men, and want to make the best decision for their daughters. That's why his approval is necessary in a marriage before she marries for the first time. Umayma, okay, again, had Zainab, and she had Habiba, and she was the wife of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. And Hamna, and she was the wife of Mus'ab ibn Umair. Of course, he was killed very early on in Islamic history, in the Sirah. He was killed at the Battle of Uhud. Okay. Mus'ab ibn Umair. And then who did she marry after that? Talha ibn Ubaidillah, one of the 10 guaranteed paradise. All right. And they had Muhammad and Imran. Okay. And she had, Hamna had one little wrinkle, believe it or not, in her history. She took part of the ifk. She took part in the speaking bad about Aisha. The ifk, when someone says the word the ifk, it refers to when Sayyida Aisha was accused of zina. Wal'ayadhu billah. Okay. She was accused of zina. And she was one of the and she was punished for that. When you accuse someone falsely of zina, you get punished. Okay. So she was flogged. Hamna, the cousin of the Prophet and the sister-in-law of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Okay. Now the ifk happened, I believe, before. What happened first? The marriage of Zainab or the ifk? I'm pretty sure the ifk happened first, but I can't say for sure. Next is Ubaidullah ibn Umayma, cousin of the Prophet through his maternal aunt. And he's the one who became a Christian. He left Islam and became a Christian. Listen, if all this was made up, as some people like to assume everything, because their Christian church lied to them, the Catholic Church lied to Europeans for so long, the Enlightenment discovered that this is so many lies here, we're being abused. They assume now, all religious leaders are just liars, scamming the people, taking power and money from the people. Well, if that was the case, where would it be? Why would you then say all these bad things about that the cousins of the Prophet did to him? So here, Hamna, she is part of the ifk against Aisha. Ubaidullah becomes a Christian. Okay. So what happened? When he became a Christian and died a Christian, his wife Habiba bint Abi Sufyan, Abu Sufyan's daughter, was there. All right. The Prophet then sallallahu alaihi wasallam proposed to marry her, and then Najashi served as her wali. Shows that Najashi was a Muslim, because the wali of a bride has to be of the same religion. Okay. Next is Abdullah ibn Umayma. Abdullah ibn Umayma. He's from the early Muhajirin, and he did well in Islam, and he attended the Battle of Badr, and he was killed at Uhud. And Abdullah ibn Umayma, the Prophet's cousin, his face was what's the word? They cut up his face at Uhud. Okay. All right. كان قائمه يسمى العون ولم يزل يتناقل حتى بيع من بغاة تركي ب8 دينار وكان يومه. Okay. And he's buried with Hamza, by the way. So when you go visit Hamza at the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi at the Uhud, when you go to Umrah or Hajj, you go to Uhud, right? There next to Uhud is a big graveyard. In the big graveyard, there are many, many people buried, and Hamza is one of them. Abdullah ibn Umayma is buried there too. Okay, so Umayma, of her 5 kids, one married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, One was the wife of Abdurrahman ibn Auf. Hamna, she married Mus'ab and then Talha, but then she took part in the ifk. Ubaidullah left Islam completely, became a Christian, and Abdullah was a martyr. Yeah. Then there's a sixth one, which is Abu Ahmad, and he's one of the Muhajirs too. He's one of the early Muslims. Okay. And the father of all of them is Jahsh. Jahsh. Okay, from Asad. All right, the third aunt of the Prophet is Barra. And Barra had two children. Abu Salama. All right, Abu Salama. And his real name is Abdullah. And he's Hajar bimra'ati Salama. And he is the husband of Salama. So the Prophet's cousin, Abu Salama, Barra, or son of Barra, the Prophet's aunt, married Salama. When he died, the Prophet then proposed to Salama after him and married her. Okay. And that's, we talked about Salama last time. Okay. And then there's Abu Sabra ibn Barra. All right. Abu Sabra. And he had a different father. All right. And he is from the Muhajirin as well. He entered Islam very early on and made hijrah. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, akha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam bayna Salama ibn Salama ibn Waqsh, wa shahida Badran wa Uhudan wa sa'ir al-mashahid. He attended everything. Abu Sabra attended everything, all of the battles, all the big events, until he died in the time of Uthman ibn Affan. So he was an early Muslim with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The whole time was with the Messenger, peace be upon him. Attended everything, and attended the time of Abu Bakr, the rule of Abu Bakr, attended the rule of Umar, and only died in the time of Sayyidina Uthman. Okay. Next, Safiyya. Safiyya had As-Sa'ib wa Abdul Ka'ba wa Zubayr. All right, Zubayr is the big one. All right. Okay. Listen to this. Zubayr, Ali, Talha, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. I'll say them again. Zubayr, Ali, Talha, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. 4 of the 10 guaranteed paradise. All of them born in the same year. Okay. Zubayr, Ali, Talha, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. All born in the same year. So they are all of one generation. So when you hear these names, Ali and Zubayr and Talha and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, you know that they're all born in the same year. Okay? When did Zubayr ibn al-Awwam learn about the Prophet and become a Muslim? He was 6 years old. Okay? He was 16 years old. He entered Islam at 16 years old. 16 sana. 16 years old. All right. And the Prophet ﷺ made him and Abdullah bin Mas'ud brothers when they went to Medina. He said, you are brothers, you take care of each other. All right. In Mecca, he would pair Sahaba up. Sorry, this is before Medina. In Mecca, he paired up Zubayr and Abdullah bin Mas'ud. فلما قدم المدينة وآخى بين المهاجرين والأنصار آخى بينه وبين سلمة ابن سلمة ابن وقش. Okay. ولم يتخلف عن غزوة غزاها. Zubayr, the son of Safiyya, the paternal aunt of the Prophet, did not miss a single battle. He did not miss a single big event that happened. And he was one of those few who stayed around the Prophet at the Battle of Hunayn. After the conquest of Mecca, they went to Ta'if, and there was an area called Hunayn. They had a battle there. That battle, the numbers were so big, the new Muslims were so many that the mojo was lost. When you have too many people and so many new people, you may lose your momentum, you may lose your unity. And that's what happened. And the people of Ta'if, the Makhzum, not Makhzum, remind me of the people of Ta'if, the tribe, the tribe of Ta'if, what are they called again? Just skip my mind right now. Well, they ended up going all the way through and reaching the Prophet ﷺ, and only a few people were around the Messenger, peace be upon him. Zubayr was one of them. Okay. Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf, Thaqafi, the Bani Thaqif. The Bani Thaqif was the name. Okay. The Bani Thaqif was their name. All right. The Prophet ﷺ said every prophet has a hawari, and a hawari is like a very close disciple, and my hawari is Zubayr. Okay. And he attended of course all the other battles, and at the battle of Badr he wore a yellow turban. All right. And the angels came down wearing the same clothes that he was wearing. When the angels, this is a good question. When the angels came down at the Battle of Badr, whose clothes were they wearing? They came in the garments and the clothes that was being worn by Zubayr. He was such a warrior, Zubayr. Okay. And Safiyya, his mother, had strengthened him by saying that she's going to strengthen him. The way she strengthened him was when he was around 2 years old. She used to take him at night and say, sleep outside. So he'd have to fend off like all sorts of snakes and, things that come out at night. Aqarib, the scorpions, stray dogs. You're trying to sleep when you're 2-3 years old, and he's got to fend them off. So she used to make him fend. She said, I'm raising a soldier. Right? And that's what he was. Okay. And he was a mushaqiq as-sufuf, mufarriq az-zuhuf. One of the things that he would do is he would go solo. And one time he went without a shirt against the Romans, without a shirt, with 2 swords in his hands. When he saw the Muslims were getting weak, their morale was low. So what did he do? He took his shirt off. That means no shields, right? And he took 2 swords and he went on his horse straight through all of the Roman lines and came right back out. And that gave the Muslims a lot of himma, right? A lot of energy to go and continue their battle there. And of course, he's one of the 10 who guaranteed paradise, right? And he actually was part of a little bit of a dispute with Sayyidina Ali at the end of his life. At the end of his life, he was part of a little dispute with Sayyidina Ali about moving the Khilafah and when to moving the Khilafah and when to prosecute the killers of Uthman. All right. So in that dispute, Sayyida Aisha, Talha, and Zubayr had come out to stop Sayyidina Ali, to have a meeting with him, to stop him, force him to have a meeting with them regarding the situation. So they spent the night that night, and then Kharijites from Ali's side went and killed. The Kharijites, they need to keep Ali busy. They need to keep Sayyidina Ali in a constant state of turmoil, because he announced once he settles down, he's going to prosecute them. So what did they do? They went and they killed some soldiers from Ali's side and killed some in the middle of the night from Aisha's side, and Zubayr and Talha. So when they woke up, everyone thought the other side had done the killing. So they woke up and a battle ensued between the two. It's called Waqi'atul Jamal, the incident of the camel, because Sayyida Aisha was observing the whole thing on a camel. So Sayyidina Ali, at this time, he pulled Zubayr over and he reminded him that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, saw them one time playing. Remember, Zubayr, Ali, Talha, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, all born the same year. And he said, do you love this man? Do you love this boy? He said to Zubayr, they're playing together. Zubayr, about Ali, he said, yes, I love him. He said, Ama innaka satuqatilu aliyan wa anta lahu zalim. Verily, one day you will be against Ali and you're in the wrong. Ali's in the right. Okay. Ibn Hajar mentions this hadith. في المطالب العالية. Okay. فذكر الزبير ذلك. Zubayr remembered that. فانصرف عن القتال. So he left the qital. Okay. He left. فاتبعه ابن جرموز ابن عبد الله. Okay. فقتله بموضع يعرف بوادي السباع. So there he killed Zubayr in a valley, in an empty valley. He didn't know, like, he just thinks this is the enemy, right? He didn't know what's happening. And he came to Ali ibn Abi Talib with his sword. And he said, look, I killed Zubayr. فقال له علي, okay, بشر قاتل ابن صفية بالنار. And here it's a narration. It seems to be that he's citing it as a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, give glad tidings to the killer of Zubayr with the fire. It means you're going to go to hell. That's what it seems like, right? Okay. So also he came with the head of Zubayr and the sword of Zubayr as well, this portion says. So what happened? That young man, he was like, I didn't know this. Like, I thought this was just an enemy. How am I supposed to know? Okay? We're fighting here. So he left Sayyidina Ali's army and he went to make tawbah in the mountains. And a few days later, people came back and said, we need to pray the janazah on him, on the killer of, his name is Ibn Jarmuz. We need to pray janazah on Ibn Jarmuz. Sayyidina Ali said, why? He said he died in a fire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purified his sin. And the Prophet was right. The Prophet ﷺ said, give the killer of the son of Safiyya good news of the fire. He didn't say the fire of Jahannam, right? He left it open. A fire, right? So he got the fire of this dunya.
The Prophet specifically said good news?
Yeah.
So good news is,
like,
obviously Jahannam can't be good news.
So that's a great point, subhanAllah. I didn't even think about that. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. He says, Bashir qatil ibn Safiyya bin nar. Give him the good news of the fire. So wait a second. How could hellfire be good news? Right? So therefore what it is that he was purified and he dies a shaheed. Because what was his intent when he killed Zubayr? He doesn't know. You think many people know history, Islamic history and seerah when they're just coming up. Like, for example, you yourself right now, if you're a 17-year-old boy, do you know the history between your dad and all his friends? Right? You don't know their history. So if you like go against somebody, you don't know that you and your dad used to go way back with that person. You just don't know. There's no classes that these next generation Muslims are taking. Anything they're learning, it's like on the go. So that's why he didn't know. He genuinely didn't know. And that's the story of Zubayr and his killer, Ibn Jarmuz. Safiyya had a fourth child, also named Safiyya, and a fifth child, a daughter named Habiba. So that is Safiyya. That's the fourth aunt, paternal aunt to the Prophet. Paternal aunt meaning aunt of the sisters of Abdullah. All right, let's go to the fifth aunt. Al-Bayda. Al-Bayda is also known as Hakim. Hakim. Al-Bayda is also known as, let's write that down here. Hakim. She goes by two names. And she had Arwa, Amir, Talha. That's it. 3 kids. Okay. 2 daughters and 1 boy. That's it for her. Next aunt, the final aunt to the Prophet ﷺ is Arwa. And how many kids did Arwa had? She had 2. Tulayb, and he has no offspring. Okay. And he was a Muslim, and he went to migrated into East Africa. He came back. He attended the Battle of Badr, and he was one of the best of the Sahaba. And he was killed on the day of Al-Ajnadain. وقيل إنه أول من أهرق دما في سبيل الله. He said he's the first to fight and kill and spill blood in the cause of Allah in a legitimate war. And some people said no, it was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Okay, Sa'd, remember he was with Zubayr, Ali, Talha, and Sa'd, all born in the same year. And then there is a daughter, Fatima bint Arwa. Okay, and there's no commentary on her. Huh? What's that? Arwa only had two. Yeah. Tulayb and Fatima. Tulayb was a good Sahabi who did many things. All right, next tomorrow we're going to cover the akhwal of the Nabi. What is the khal? The khal is the mom's brothers. So we finished the father's brothers and the father's sisters. Now we're going to go to the mother's brothers. Okay, and there are only two. All right, so so Amina, the Prophet's mother Amina, who are her brothers? We're going to cover that. Okay. Then we're going to go to the Prophet's relatives, other relatives through Rada'a. Rada'a being milk, through milk. You know about this, right? You can have relatives through milk. Okay. Okay. Ibn Jarmuz. Oh, do you really believe that Ibn Jarmuz goes to heaven? He says no, he went to hell. No, Ibn Jarmuz killed Zubayr, and Ali promised him the fire. He didn't promise him Jahannam. Okay? And he ended up being burned in a fire. All right? So this is the status of Ibn Jarmuz. All right, Omar, let's fire up for the dua. We're going to stop pause here. We'll do the dua of Wednesday. Then we're going to get back. By the way, we can't say, we don't know that it's from the Prophet or Sayyidina Ali saying that. But how would Sayyidina Ali know about the future? Because the Sahaba did not speak about, mukashafat in that way. Because it would confuse everything. Yeah. Ibn Jarmuz. He went to Sayyidina Ali and he asked him for a reward. He said, look, I've killed Zubayr. Okay. He says here, as for me, I heard the Prophet say, so it is a hadith. Bashir qatil ibn Safiyyata bin nar. Bashir qatila ibn Safiyyata bin nar. Okay. There's different stories about Ibn Jarmuz. Ibn Jarmuz. Amr ibn Jarmuz. Qatil al-Zubayr. Okay. Let's see what... actually, this is good. This is good to read. Al-Dhahabi. Let's see what Al-Dhahabi says. If I can find it here. Because he's one of our most reliable sources. Oh, it's a pretty long entry. I have to find it here. All right, we'll find it later. All right, let's go to our dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا إله إلا الله الملك الحق المبين. 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 بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا وكان عند الله وجيها وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين. وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نصر من الله وفتح قريب وبشر المؤمنين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى ابن مريم للحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤود حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. أعيذ نفسي بالله تعالى من كل ما يسمع بأذنين ويبصر بعينين ويمشي برجلين ويبطش بيدين ويتكلم بالشفتين. حصنت نفسي بالله الخالق الأكبر من شر ما أخاف وأحذر من الجن والإنس ويحضرون. عز جاره وجل ثناؤه وتقدست أسماؤه لا إله غيره. اللهم نجعلك في نحور أعدائي وأعوذ بك من شرورهم وتحيلهم ومكرهم ومكائدهم. أطفئ نار من أراد بي عداوة من الجن والإنس. يا حافظ يا حفيظ يا كافي يا محيط سبحانك يا رب ما أعظم شأنك وأعز سلطانك. تحصنت بالله وبأسماء الله وبآيات الله وملائكة الله وأنبياء الله ورسل الله والصالحين من عباد الله. حصنت نفسي بلا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم احرسني بعينك التي لا تنام اكنفني بكنفك الذي لا يرام ارحمني بقدرتك عليه فلا أهلك وأنت ثقتي ورجائي. يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا درك الهالكين يا درك الهالكين يا درك الهالكين. اكفني شر كل طارق يطرق بي ليلا أو نهار إلا طارقا يطرق بخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله أرقي نفسي من كل ما يؤذي ومن كل حاسد الله وشفائي. بسم الله رقيت. اللهم رب الناس اذهب الباس اشفي أنت الشافي وعافي أنت المعافي لا شفاء إلا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما ولا ألما. يا كافي يا وافي يا حميد يا مجيد ارفع عني كل تعب شديد واكفني من الحد والحديد والمرض الشديد والجيش العديد واجعل لي نورا من نورك وعز من عزك ونصر من نصرك وبهاء من بهائك وعطاء من عطائك وحراسة من حراستك وتأييد من تأييدك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام والمواهب العظام. أسألك أن تكفيني من شر كل ذي شر إنك أنت الله الخالق الأكبر. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Stop a few minutes for dua, inshallah. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. All right, so we need to research here Ibn Jarmuz, that story about Ibn Jarmuz, because I have definitely have read that he ended up being burned in a fire. Okay. So it's going to take me a while to, I guess, to read here Al-Dhahabi's entry on it. All right, here's another question that we received. All right, another question that we received is, what do Malikis have aside from Amal Ahl Medina? Well, very simply, Al-Qiyas, of course. I'm just going to read these sources. Al-Qiyas, analogy. Okay, there are many issues in which Malik used qiyas. Okay, many of them are used in the Muwatta. فقد قاس زوجة المفقود إذا حكم بموته فاعتدت زوجته عدة الوفاة وتزوجت بغيره ثم ظهر حيا بحال من طلقها زوجها وأعلمها بالطلاق ثم راجعها ولم تعلم بالرجعة فتزوجت بعد انتهاء العدة. So, for example, he made an analogy between two things. An example of Malik's use of analogy. A man divorces a woman. All right, they're separate. He revokes the divorce within the iddah period. She doesn't know about the revocation. The iddah ends. She remarries. Okay? All right. Umar ibn Khattab gave a fatwa on that matter. Okay, he says the marriage is valid. All right, that marriage is the second marriage is valid. Okay, regardless of whether they consummated it or not. So Malik, he made analogy on it on the simple, on the issue of a woman whose husband has gone missing. All right, the husband's gone missing. زوجة المفقود. Okay. حكم بموته. So we assume that he's dead. It's been assumed that the man's dead. All right. So she has the iddah of, she waits the waiting period, 4 months and 10 days of the dead man, and then she remarries. Then suddenly the man reappears. So what's the ruling on that? Her second marriage is what's valid. And her first marriage is finished. Okay? So that's an example of Malik using qiyas. Okay? Because Umar ibn Khattab ruled on the woman who didn't know that her ex-husband had revoked the divorce, finished the iddah and married again. Umar ruled it's for the second husband. The marriage of the second husband is valid. Okay? Marriage of the second husband is valid. So, same thing of the mafqood. And there was a lot of times people would go missing. Imagine you travel for trade or whatever, and then you end up getting lost, getting captured, running out. Sometimes it's much simpler. You're running out of money. And you have to sit and work and earn your way back. And then time passes. And people think, you must be dead. Okay? And that's a whole nother discussion of when the missing husband can be deemed to be dead. That's a whole nother discussion. The next source that Malik utilizes is called istihsan. All right? وَهُوَ مُقَابِلْ الْقِيَاسِ. And it's almost like the corollary of analogy. Qiyas being, of course, analogy. وهو الرجوع إلى تقديم الاستدلال المرسل على القياس لأن الاستطراد في القياس قد يؤدي إلى فوت مصلحة أو جلب مفسدة فيتركه الفقيه إلى الاستحسان. Okay, so if qiyas would lead to losing a benefit or introducing a harm, the faqih will leave off analogy and he will take istihsan. Asbaq said, إن المغرق في القياس يكاد يفارق السنة. Too much qiyas could end up in rulings that are far from the sunnah. If we always make analogy on things, sometimes the analogy doesn't, it brings a harm or causes us to lose a benefit. Okay. وأن الاستحسان عماد العلم. Istihsan, and this is found in the muwafaqat of Shadee. Istihsan is the pillar that on which knowledge rests. Malik used istihsan. Even Ibn al-Qasim said, يروى عن مالك أنه قال. Ibn al-Qasim, Abdul Rahman ibn al-Qasim, Malik's greatest student, says, it is narrated from Malik that he said, تسعة أعشار العلم is istihsan. Right? 9/10 of knowledge is istihsan, seeking what is good and avoiding what is bad. Okay, by the standards of the Sharia, of course. And some of the examples of Malik using istihsan, al-ittila' على عورات الناس في التداوي فإن القاعدة العامة في العورات تحريم رؤيتها. It's forbidden to look at the awra of people, the nakedness of people. However, based on istihsan, he permitted it in medical purposes. For medical purposes, you could look at the awra of somebody. So, for example, a very close part of the groin of a person, this is not a life and death sickness. This is not, you're not going to lose your leg. So why would the haram should not be made valid here, right? Should not be made permitted. But based on istihsan, to avoid a harm, okay, a mashaqqa, then he permitted it. Okay. Because we wouldn't need istihsan if it was life or limb, right? Life or limb we know becomes halal. So therefore it's not life and limb. It's a sickness that is not life and limb. He permitted it. Right. وكذلك المزارعة والمساقاة فإن القاعدة العامة توجب منع عقودهما لجهالة البذل فيهما ولكن استحسن إجازة ذلك لدفع الضرر. Okay. ومن ذلك عدم اشتراط العدالة في الشهود إذا كان القاضي في بلد يندر فيه الشهود العدول. So for example, in a city in which there are no upright witnesses, everyone's a fasiq. There are no upright people at all. Istihsan, by using istihsan, it's been ruled that the judge can find anyone, even can find witnesses even if they're not upright. Okay. وكذلك إجازة الإيصاء إلى غير العدل دفعا للمشقة. Okay, so otherwise we can't have any court proceedings, can't have any trials if all we're looking for is always someone who's upright. All right. Number 7, al-istishab. All right. الاستصحاب هو الحكم ببقاء الشيء على ما كان في الماضي حتى يقوم دليل يفيد التغيير. Istisḥab means that when we enter in upon a situation, the way things are now remains until we have an evidence to change them. It's called istisḥab. All right, keep things the way they are until there's a reason to change them. Okay. Al-aslu bara'atu dhimma. The origins of things is innocence. حتى يقوم الدليل المثبت للدين. All right. Unless an evidence arises against that. An example of that, الطهارة. لمن تأكد لديه وجودها وشك في الناقض. right? If you are certain that you have tahara, right? And then you have a doubt about something that would have invalidated this tahara. So you stay with the origin. واستصحاب النكاح حتى يثبت من يدعي الطلاق وقوعه. So two people are married. They're going to essentially be considered married unless you prove a reason for the divorce. Okay. Number 8, Al-Masalih Al-Mursal. If you're wondering what we're reading Imam Malik's short biography and an introduction to his madhab by Sheikh Ahmad Taha Rayyan. Which makes me want to question that first example that we gave of istishab. What tahara is he talking about? Is he talking about taharat al-hadath or taharat al-khabath? Because we know that in Maliki Fiqh, doubt about having made wudu or losing wudu nullifies your wudu. In any event. Next asl is al-masalih al-mursala. All right, this is the 8th asl. Because again, we're reading these things because people oftentimes ask, all we hear about the Maliki madhab is amal ahmadi. The reason is that that's what's unique. The amal is what's unique. These usul are found probably in most of the other madhahib, if we look at their usul. Okay. Malik rahimahullah was mu'tadilan, balanced in taking al-masalih al-mursala في المعاملات. Okay. المصالح المرسلة هي الأمور التي ليس لها نص خاص من الشارع يشهد لها بالاعتبار أو الإلغاء. There is no specific text on it. Okay. And I'm assuming no analogy either. Okay. And Malik was balanced in treating this. ويعتبرها دليلا مستقلا غير مستند إلى ما سواه. All right, so maslaha becomes an evidence. Benefit becomes an evidence when there's no text and nothing to have an analogy with. Okay, no maqis. كان مالك إذا أخذه في أخذه بالمصالح المرسلة متبعا لا مبتدعا. And he used to follow his elders in how they took, his scholars, his teachers, he'd followed them in how they utilized maslaha. He found the Sahaba of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam يقومون بأمور من بعده لم تكن في عهده. They would do things that did not happen in the time of the Prophet. There was no precedent for this in the time of the Prophet. Like what? جمع القرآن من المصالح المرسلة. جمع القرآن, gathering the Quran into one book. Okay. Maslaha, benefit, is the only thing that required this. The Quran didn't tell us to do this. The Prophet never told us to do this. But common sense says, well, we're going to lose the book. We have to gather it. So that's a proof of maslaha. There's no analogy to draw here. Okay. وَحَدُّهُمُ الشَّارِبْ لِلْخَمْرِ 80 جَلْدَةً. The Sahaba also elevated the lashing, the flogging of the drunkard to 80 lashes. Okay. إذ رأوا الشرب الذريعة إلى الافتراء وقذف المحصنات بسبب كثرة الهذيان. And so they found that most drinkers, when they're getting drunk, they accuse other people of things. False accusation of zina. So they gave him both. They're going to give every drunk person both. The flogging of the lashes of public drunkenness, public drinking, and the flogging of false accusations. So 80. Okay. Also, what about Umar, who executed all of the people who plotted a murder, not just the one who struck the victim? قتل عمر الجماعة بالواحد إذ اشتركوا في قتله. Right? So a whole group of people plotted to kill somebody, but only one person did the killing. But you have a getaway car and you have all these people, like these, you have many people involved in a murder, planning the murder. All of you got executed. Okay? Okay. وقد صار مالك على هذا الضرب فقد نقل عنه قوله فقد نقل عنه قوله في عدم بيعة عمر بن عبد العزيز إلى رجل صالح من بعده حينما جاء ذكر ذلك إنما كانت البيعة ليزيد بن عبد الملك من بعده فخاف عمر إن ولي رجلا صالحا ألا يكون ليزيد بث من القيام فتقوم فتنة فيفسد ما لا يصلح. Okay. And he goes on to give other examples. سد الذريعة. I'm just going to سد الذريعة. All right. And there's also فتح الذريعة, by the way. They're closing the door of harm. There's also opening the door. Okay. There's only two more. I'm going to read these real quick. سد الذريعة. This is a very important one in Malik's usul. الذريعة is the way to something. وسدها meaning closing the way. All right. أن الوسيلة إلى الأمر المحرم محرمة. The path to what is sinful. Okay. والوسيلة إلى الأمر الواجب واجبة. And the path to something obligatory is obligatory. All right. فالفاحشة حرام. والنظر إلى عورة الأجنبية حرام. Looking at the aura of a woman is haram. Zina is haram. All right. So looking becomes haram because it's a means. All right. It's haram to look at the aura of a woman even not for pleasure. All right. It's haram because it would lead to potentially something of fahisha. لأنها تؤدي إلى الفاحشة. والجمعة فرض والسعي لها فرض. So Jum'ah is an obligation. So likewise, all the things that would require you to get there become obligatory. So if I have to take the bus, it's obligatory. If I have to get on a mule, that's obligatory. If I have to get on a car, it's obligatory. Okay? So Hajj is fard. So therefore, all the things that would lead us to do Hajj is fard. Okay? والعبرة في هذا الأصل بما سيؤول إليه الفعل وبعبارة أخرى فإن النية ليست هي الأمر الجوهري. All right. في الإذن أو المنع. All right. And then lastly, I'm not going to read the rest of that. Lastly, العادات والعرف. والعرف, what is العرف? هو الأمر الذي تتفق عليه الجماعة من الناس في مجاري حياتها. Al-urf is that which all people agree upon in how to live in daily life. Why they agree upon it? Because they found some goodness in it. But there's no text in the Quran or the Sunnah that we have to do this. والعادة المتكررة من الآحاد والجماعات وإذا اعتادت الجماعة أمرا صار عرفا لها فالعادة للجماعة وعرفها يتلاقيان في المؤدى وإن اختلف مفهومهما. وقد اعتبر مالك العرف والعادة في الأحكام. Malik used to consider customs of people in the rulings. فقد جاء في المدونة, it came in the مدونة, إذا قال لامرأتي أنت علي حرام أو خلية أو برية أو وهبتك لأهلك يلزمه الطلاق الثلاث ولا تنفعه البينة أنه أراد أقل من الثلاث. وهذا بناء على أن هذا اللفظ في العرف الاستعمالي اشتهر في العدد الذي هو الثلاث. Okay, so for example, if a man says to his wife, you are haram to me, you are nothing to me, and you are bariya, I guess it's you have nothing to do with me. He says those three things. That means that he counts as a 3 times divorce. All right? That's an example of urf. That's how the people perceived it at that time. They perceived it as 3 different statements, not an emphasis of one statement, and Allah knows best. All right, so that was the next segment, all right, that we are covering. All right, now let's go to the Q&A for a little bit.
Before that, the appeal as well.
We have an appeal for flour for Gaza. We are buying flour so that they could... let's take a look at home. Omar, why don't you speak?
Yeah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, as you guys know, from previously we had an appeal for Gaza, and mashallah, you guys donated a lot of money, and we had videos from our brother Yusuf, who's directly on the ground in Gaza, sending us videos with the Safiyya logo, directly that the funds were from you guys, and you guys saw what your funds led to, meat and all these different needs that the people of Gaza, were being assisted with. So, inshallah, as you guys can see on the screen, I've sent the link as well in the chat. There's an appeal for flour for Gaza. As we covered today in Rafah, what's going on, the situation is clearly reaching a very drastic, point. Let me just fix this layout real quick. So it's reaching a very drastic sort of point where, hunger and starvation has reached a crisis point in Gaza. So inshallah, guys, be generous, have an open hand, and donate what you can. If it's not, $10, make it $5. If it's not that much, $1. Anything, it goes a long way. So inshallah, I sent I'll pin the link. If you're on Instagram, you can come on YouTube and you can see the chat. In the chat, there's the link for the appeal for Gaza, in flour for Gaza. So just please donate, and if you can't donate, then at least share this link to whoever you know, in your group chats, to your friends, family. This is very important, to assist our brothers and sisters in Gaza. We talk a lot, but at the end of the day, action is what's going to make change. So, inshallah, that's all I have to say. Just have an open hand, inshallah.
Okay, good. Jazakallah khairan. Jazakallah khairan. I'm reading here Dhahabi, and there is no mention of Ibn Jarmuz dying in a fire. So I have to find out where that is mentioned. Okay. All it has is that he's a Bedouin, and there's no mention of that other part of the story. So we have to look at that up and find it. Okay. And it may not be may not even be in any of the books, reliable books. So you hear so many things that just can't remember where you heard it, where you read it. Okay? SubhanAllah. And things, they stay in your memory, but you can't remember where you read it. All right, let's go to the Q&A. And this guy with the semicolons, you just blocked this guy. Thank you for just this guy. Enough with this guy. Why would you hate watch something, right? Go do something else with your life. Anyway, see, people don't realize I benefit from those things. You have to, and if you're in a situation where you're exposed to constant, irregular dosage of hate mail, you have to psychologically learn how to benefit from it, right? You're strengthening us. Hate mail strengthens you.
Someone's asking on Instagram, is Q&A only on YouTube? No, Instagram.
No, you can ask it here. Go ahead. Why don't you scroll? I'm going to see if anyone asked anything on Instagram.
Yeah, we answer questions on Instagram too.
Yeah. There was a question someone said, I'm a very basic Muslim and I need to know an answer for something. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Here is, I'm a simple guy. I see a Sheikh video and I'm like, okay, there wasn't a question there. That's good.
Someone's asking, how to awaken Muslims in their 20s from Ghafla?
Go to graveyards. Go to funerals. Right? Go to funerals. Go to halaqah start a halaqah on the remembrance of death and afterlife. Okay. Remembrance of death and after. Are tattoos allowed in the 4 schools? No, tattoos are not allowed in any of the 4 schools. The Prophet spoke explicitly on the prohibition of tattoos. Is studying online the same as in person in terms of reward? Yeah, we like to say that if you cannot meet someone in person, inshallah, you get the reward of studying. However, not the full benefit, because when you study with a living sheikh, you get to see how he applies it. When you study online, you just close the computer and you don't see the sheikh again. But when you study with a scholar, you get to see how the scholar actually applies his knowledge. And that's the key. All right, what is the valid reason for khul'a, and what happens if the husband doesn't accept it and the woman can't find an imam or a sharia court to help her? No, she has to, if there is no harms done by the husband, he's fulfilling his duties, he hasn't harmed the sister, his wife, yet she feels that I can't continue living with him, not happy at all, I can't fulfill his rights. Okay. Then she wants to khula. She needs to give him a sum of money. He agrees then, and then he divorces her. Now, let's say he's like, no, I'm not doing it. So you need to go. Someone needs to convince him. Essentially, can't say pressure him, but convince him. Okay. Yeah.
If someone's like afraid, he wants me to read your
Go ahead.
question.
Yeah.
Question. He's saying, what's the responsibilities of lay Muslimin with regards to Gaza, for which they will be questioned?
Our responsibility is general concern. من لم يهتم بأمور المسلمين فليس منا. Whoever's not concerned with the affairs of Muslims is not one of us. So, but what is ihtimam? General concern. I mean, we're living in an age, we have tools. We're able to get news updates every day. We're able to give a buck here and a buck there. Some money here, some money there. You have to make sure, of course, your money's going to, the right place. Money can't be going to somewhere that can get you compromised later on, right? So that's our responsibility.
And one thing, inshallah, we don't have any videos today from Gaza. If you guys are like watching our stream from before, yeah. We usually have videos, live from Gaza, and they're mentioning our name with the Safiyya logos. Mm-hmm. So when you donate to, this campaign that I just put up, yeah, you guys are 100%. There's a guarantee it's going to reach, and there's video proof and everything. And I think that's one fear that people have. They're like,
they don't know if it's going to come or not. No, we have video proof, and that's why we like this organization. They have a man on the ground who sends us videos. Okay. Bara means I'm free of you, yes. Inni bari'un minki means I'm free of you. So if the order for the people that means divorce, then yes, it's divorce. What is the adab of knowledge in Islam? The adab of knowledge is to understand what yields certain knowledge and what is different upon. This is one of the adab of knowledge. Okay. And the adab of knowledge in terms of seeking it, that's knowing it. In terms of seeking it, is the adab of seeking it from its sources, which is related to the first thing we said. If someone is just reading and figuring things out, but he read a lot and now he's claiming to teach, his understanding is speculative. It's not definitive. So you need to go to somebody whose knowledge is definitive. I studied this with the sheikh and this is what it is, and the sheikh studied it with his sheikh, and the sheikh studied it with his sheikh, all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ with bisanad muttasil. And that's why we have madhahib. The madhabs are connected chains all the way back. That's what the madhabs are. Connected chains all the way back. So there are certainty when they speak. So you want the adab of knowledge. The first adab is to know the difference between what's certain and what's speculative. The second adab is to take it from its sources. Okay, so that you can take it on a firm footing. The third adab is to act upon it, because otherwise you're insulting knowledge by learning and not acting upon it. The fourth one is to pass it on in the best of ways. You're representing the Prophet when you pass on knowledge. Okay, so you pass it on in the best of ways, because there's no value in there's no value in somebody seeing somebody who needs food and not giving him food. You were brave enough to go and hunt down an animal and you eat it yourself. That's wonderful. But what about the people who are also hungry next to you? All right. All right. How do we answer fiqh questions? Well, you have to know what you're saying. That's it. And to answer based upon a reliable source is sufficient. So, for example, it's not everyone's going to make tahqiq or go do a full research on every question. It's just not realistic. What is permitted for us to do, if I have a reliable sheikh and I heard him saying, giving a ruling on something, I can give it. Okay. Oh, what's your source? So-and-so is the source. Of course, he's not a source in religion, but he's a sound transmitter. Okay. He's a sound. It's like an extension cord. An extension cord, it doesn't have any power. It's not connected to power itself. It's connected to a cord that's connected to power. Right? And even that is then connected to a greater power. So there's nothing wrong with answering, but you just need to be certain that that's how you're answered. That you're answering something that is from a sound source. All right?
Instagram. He's saying, shortening prayers while traveling in Maliki Fiqh. If you reach your hotel, which you rest at overnight, do you shorten prayer here? Is there like a minimum/max days for shortening?
Yeah, so it's 20 prayers worth. So if you're going to be in that location for 20 prayers or more, all right, 21 prayers or more, you don't shorten. If it's 20 prayers or less, you shorten. Okay. And if you're moving from place to place, so let's say you go to a country and you're moving, you spend 3 days in one city, then 3 days in another city, you renew. It's not total. Every stop is considered 20 prayers or less. All right, here's a question from Realistic. A person follows the American lifestyle, has a boyfriend and a girlfriend, is far from Allah, and their mother supports them because she doesn't want to lose them. The dad has lost his battle and they don't listen to him. What should he do? Well, I can't really say, but I want to lean back into saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given everybody strength and power. You have leverage. Everyone has some leverage. A dad lost the battle, let's say telling his kid you can't have a girlfriend. The mom disagrees with the dad. The kid's going and having a girlfriend anyway. Does not the dad have leverage here? He must use it to stop sinful behavior happening in his own home. Okay. Is he not spending on them? Is he not, supporting them in different ways? Is that not all forms of leverage that he should not be doing anymore? And that people know that he's serious about this? Right? Simultaneously, we blame the dad. You have to blame the dad too. This thing doesn't happen out of nowhere, right? It happened because you were neglectful in the past, guaranteed, right? So the blame is not lifted from him alone. But now that you're in this situation, and this is not even good. It's not even good to have to use these extremely harsh measures, right? Religion and deen is something that's got to come from the heart. You could force it a little bit, right? Yeah, you could force a 13-year-old. No, you're not doing this. I'm taking it away. I'm taking the computer away. That's fine. That happens all the time. But when you're talking about a 17, 18-year-old, this person's mind has been made up. That book was written way back when the kid was 12 and 13. So is there anything to do? Yes. But is it going to be good? No. Use absolute force. You need iman to avoid these temptations. If you didn't grow that iman in the person in the first place, I don't even know how the use of force is going to work out. So that's why I'm not going to, I'm going to say that's out there. It's on the table, but I can't advise it. So you got to look at I don't know what to do. There's man yattaqillah yaj'al lahu makhraja. If you have taqwa, Allah finds you a way out. But if a person did not have taqwa for many, many years and did not educate his kids and guide them in Islam for many, many years, you didn't have taqwa. So there's no way out. Ibn Abbas used to answer people like this. They used to come and Ibn Abbas says, you act like fools and then you come running. Ibn Abbas, get me out of this with a fatwa. Get me out, give me the guidance. He said, you didn't have taqwa in the beginning, so Allah doesn't have a way out for you. I don't have a way out for you. No fatwa for you. No advice for you. Sounds harsh, but the questioner is named realistic, and that's the realistic answer for you. There's not always a way out. That father has to make tawbah. That father has to change his ways. That father did not educate his kids. He didn't guide even his wife. You're responsible. You think just the responsibility of a husband is just a roof and food and intimacy? What about iman? Isn't he the imam for his wife too? Okay. So his wife buckles and caves. Oh, okay, I'm going to be permissive of the haram so I don't lose my son. So she buckled and caved, right? Well, who was strengthening her iman and her deen? And this doesn't take rocket science. Show up at the masjid all the time. There's a talk, there's taraweeh, there's ibadat, there's a Quran night. Show up. That's it. Take your family and show up. Let the masjid do the talking. But you just have to show up. Okay?
This is like a build up on this question that you just answered. He's saying, what advice can you give for building a strong Islamic foundation for your children? I mean, you touched on it right now, but
show up to the masajid. These are the hospitals of the heart. Show up at classes. You're not expected to like, for example, I could probably train a baseball a kid to probably be a professional baseball player. Doesn't have to be the major leagues, could be the minor leagues, right? There's like a lot of minor leagues. And I've never touched a baseball in my life. I'd never once set foot on a diamond, okay, and played baseball. But it's not so hard to find the camps, to find the coaches, to pay the money, and to show up, and to drop him off. It takes a lot of effort, but it doesn't take a genius. In Islam, I'm going to look around. I like this sheikh. I like this masjid. I'm going to drop you off. I'm going to keep dropping you off. I will drop you off, all right, until we run out of gas. I'm going to keep dropping you off. Good things are going to happen. All right? Very good things are going to happen. If I keep connecting you, oh, you want to go to a concert? I'm not dropping you off. I'm not going to get up off the couch. Simple as that. I love people. I was pressured to take my kid. He came and grabbed your pressure points. He said, get up and drive me to the concert. Are you weak? You can't be weak. You're not. Certain things Allah doesn't allow us to be weak. Okay. Can we pray sunnah in the same spot as you prayed fard? It's one of those things that you never find in any of the books, but everyone does them. And it is valid to pray the sunnah in the same spot as you prayed fard. It's this common action to move a little bit, to separate between fard and sunnah. Okay. And the questioner says, I separated it with the tasbih in between. The key is that there's some form of separation between fard and sunnah, but by time, by location. And even if you didn't do any of that, it's still valid. Do questions have to be on any specific topic? Not today. It's open question. Did you study at Al-Azhar? No, I didn't. Never studied at any specific institution, but studied with different ulama. And the alim of Azhar that I studied with was Sheikh Muhammad Al-Jindi in his home, Risalat ibn Abi Zayd, and language, Arabic grammar, and Sahih Muslim. And today the Azhari scholar that I study fiqh with is Sheikh Mahmoud Shabib. What should Dawah strategy be for a new masjid community? New masjid community should have a multi-purpose hall, should have a gym, if possible. Of course, I know that takes a lot. But you need 3 parts of your community. A gym, a multi-purpose hall, and the musalla, obviously, right? And you need a place for classes too, which can be used in the multi-purpose hall, perhaps. Why do I say that? Because if you have classes in the masjid, a woman cannot enter if she's upon haid, right? So classes need to have a separate space, to be honest with you. Otherwise, how do women will have to miss 1 out of every 4 classes or more? All right. So your dawah strategy should also involve it'am ta'am, feeding poor people, and inviting guests. Just having dinner for the local communities. That's what I believe in. Simply having dinners for the local communities. Neighbors' dinner today. So hey, come on in. Just a dinner. That's it. There's no excuse for it. Just a dinner. General dinner for the community. Right? It doesn't have to be interfaith. It doesn't have to be any political thing and have all the politicians. Just invite the neighbors for dinner. What's this for? Nothing. Just a general neighbor dinner. And you don't have to talk. You don't have to have anything specific. Just constant interaction. And food is the easiest thing. Oh, mashallah, what do you have here? Hot chai from Khyber.
It's like the trademark chai.
I know. Yeah. Qahwah house is coming. And I'm telling you, Khyber is going to do better after Qahwah house comes. I'll tell you why. Because if Qahwah house builds its coffee shop near Khyber, everyone's going to go there, right? And eventually they're going to be like, all right, we did Qahwah house last week, let's try Khyber this week. And they also offer different things. Yeah, Adani chai is different from Desi chai, right? And so when it becomes a hub of coffee and tea and chai, you attract more people and everyone gets a bigger piece of the pie. So right now, Khyber may have 100% of our of the customers, right? But when Qahwah house comes, that 100 may be cut to 40, but the number of customers will be much bigger, right? And especially now that everyone's boycotting Starbucks, and I heard the local Starbucks a couple months ago was given a 6 months grace period. Turn it around in 6 months or we have to shut the store down. Can you imagine? That place was basically a printer of money.
Right.
They were printing money, those people.
That was where the Ottomans used to set up all their marketplaces. The guilds would have all the different businesses. If you were a jeweler, you would have a row of jewelers. That's where jewelers' row came from. This idea, all of them would benefit. If they
It's more efficient for the customer to have all the meat in one area, all the cloth. That's why you have, for example, the garment district in New York, right? Diamond district in New York. Same thing in Patterson. We have 2-3 streets that have everything in it in Patterson. Edison, same thing. Like 5 hella restaurants in one street. And this will be the same thing. The Qahwah and chai operation. So everyone is, a lot of people are saying, oh, when Qahwah house comes, they're gonna crush Khyber. I think it's the exact opposite. They're actually gonna go up. Yes, you have less percentage of the market, but you have a bigger market, right? So what would you rather, 20% of $1 billion or 100% of $10 million, right? What's the math on that? Yeah, yeah, something good. Is it halal to eat meat from USA since it's proven now that it is a Jewish state? Meat is not made halal by what state it's in. Meat is not made halal or haram by the nation. Meat is made halal or haram by who slaughters it and how. And we need a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew to be the slaughterer, and the slaughterer by cutting the neck. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانَ, no matter what Asim al-Hakim says. Okay. Meat is not made haram or halal by the nation it's in. If I'm in a Muslim nation and an atheist, a guy with no deen, hey, what are you? Oh, I'm a Muslim, but I used to be a Muslim. I don't have any deen right now. Okay, well, you're the butcher. We can't eat from you, even if your name is Abdullah. Okay, name is Abdullah, son of Omar. We can't eat from you. Okay. Can you explain the uncreated nature of the Quran? Is it pre-eternal? The Quran, we know, is the word of Allah and it is uncreated. Some philosophers got smart and they said, okay, what do you say about the Arabic language? Is it uncreated and eternal? The Arabic language? So the ulama then said, the Quran, the speech of Allah, there is kalamullah, and then there al-nafsi, and then kalamullah al-lafzi. Kalamullah al-nafsi is before there was ever anything in existence. The speech of Allah existed within himself. And that's what's uncreated. No letters, no sounds, no nothing. No beginning, no end. It's within himself. Kalamuhu al-nafsi. Like a person, he's got something in his mind. The whole idea is in his mind. Then he puts it on paper. Then kalamuhu al-lafzi. Now that same kalam, some of it is the pages of Ibrahim. Some of it is the Torah. Some of it is the Zabur of David. Some of it comes in the form of the Quran, the Injil of Isa, the Quran given to Sayyid al-Kawnayn alayhi salatu wassalam. Some of his speech is going to be reserved to me and you when we are judged in front of Allah Ta'ala. And he speaks to every single Muslim. Okay, every single believer. That's kalamullah, right? So that is kalam lafzi, that is put in a form. And we say the Arabic language is created, yes. Right? And the kalam nafsi, that is placed in that language, we call that kalam lafzi now. Now I can speak about the kalam lafzi. I can kalam nafsi. I can recite the kalam nafsi. We call that kalam lafzi. God's speech which is pronounced and uttered. And we say it is unchanged and no created being has any part in its creation. Or, sorry, not its creation, its composition. Because it's uncreated. No human being has any part in the composition of this speech. Although the language is created. Okay. Follow the largest group of Muslims. Whoever deviates from it will go thrown into hell. Ibn Majah. Very important question, because what does it mean? It means that the jama'ah of Muslims has two meanings. On one sense, within the general life of a Muslim, he should stick with other pious Muslims. But within matters of theology and law, the jama'ah of Muslims refers to the scholars that agreed upon something, even if from the beginning of Islamic history. So what is the jama'ah that have Ahl Sunnah on a certain issue? It's not what the local Muslim community says. It's what the scholars have been saying forever, right? That's called the trodden path, the beaten path, al-muwatta. The beaten path, the trodden path. That means when I look in the 7th century, what were the scholars saying? In the 3rd Hijri century, what were they saying? In the 10th Hijri century, they're all saying the same thing. Now my whole country can go astray from that. I follow the scholars, not them. So in terms of theology and law, the jama'ah, Ahl Sunnah, are the scholars upon the beaten path, irrespective of my community. But in everyday life, right, my religious state, my spiritual state, everything will be better when I stick with the jama'ah, the local community, in what they do. Not so again, that's in what they do, that is not up for discussion. Just keeping their company, praying with them, eating with them. But if there's a matter of discussion, then the jama'ah is the beaten path, the trodden path of the scholars for centuries. Okay, so that's the answer to you 007's question. Now we have, you have something to say?
Yeah.
Yep.
So with respect to the madahib, I've heard this before, differences of opinion. So that standard would apply also to any question related to the different madahibs, because some people would say, okay, the Hanafis have more followers, so that means they must be more correct than, say, the Malikis.
Okay, so here's a question that comes up. Hanafis have more followers than Hanbalis, so does that make them more correct? Omar whispered yes in the back. The answer to that is that there's 5 levels of every interpretation. And provided an interpretation is valid, okay, then we simply say it's valid. It's not for us to say it's correct. What's more correct? It's for us, what's most correct. It's for us to say what is valid. So every interpretation, remember, the text of the Quran and Hadith has qat'i text, no interpretation needed. Right? Allah is one. There's no discussion needed there. Right? Okay. Just like the sun rises from the east, there's no discussion needed here. But how far is the sun? Yeah, that's going to take discussion, right? So there is qat'i text, no discussion needed. Then there's interpretive text. Every interpretation, we divide it to number 1, the most valid interpretation. And that's if the Sahaba spoke about it. And there's an ijma' with the Sahaba. Then yes, they interpreted it, and that interpretation is what's most valid. And then the next generation and the next, the Salaf, the 3 generations. That would be the most valid interpretation. Then a valid interpretation is that interpretation which follows the rules of grammar, does not contradict any other explicit text of the Quran, okay, and has been accepted by the scholars as a valid interpretation. That's all you need to practice your religion. A valid. You don't need to go to the most valid. You need to see a valid interpretation. Okay? Usually it's one of the dominant opinions of the 4 schools. Thirdly is an erroneous interpretation. Okay? An erroneous interpretation. That means it does not follow the rules of interpretation, but it doesn't contradict an explicit text. Okay? So it's an incorrect interpretation. You're not allowed to follow that. You're sinful if you follow that. Fourthly, you put a line right there, a red line, because the number 4 is a heretical interpretation. It's an interpretation that contradicts an explicit text that is not widespread. So that renders your whole religion, you are a heretic now, if you go with that interpretation. You're a heretic. Provided we're talking about the major matters of religion. Number 5 is an interpretation that puts you out of Islam altogether. And that is an interpretation that contradicts what is known in religion by necessity. Explicit text that's far and widespread. What's an example of this? No, like for example of kufr. Let's take an example of what, huh? Yeah, someone says, for example, my interpretation is that fasting is recommended. Because there is, in the beginning, fast of Ramadan was recommended. Right? You could fast or you could feed somebody. So someone says, I take it by that opinion, that fasting is recommended. Ramadan is recommended. So obviously you contradicted what's known in religion by necessity. All right? Even if you pray 5 times a day and you fast 30 days, believing it to be a recommendation, you're outside of Islam. Because you're contradicting what is known in religion by necessity. Even any Tom, Dick, and Harry out here knows that Muslims fast the month of Ramadan as an obligation, not because they feel like it. Then you have an interpretation that renders a person a heretic, such as Isra and Mi'raj was a dream. Okay. A person's a heretic. You have that belief. Because it's very clear that it was not a dream. Right? But it's something that not a lot of people would know about. Okay. Those are examples. What would be an erroneous interpretation that in itself would be invalid, but it would not remove somebody from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? It just in itself is invalid. It's wrong. That's, for example, to say that someone were to say that, no, I hold that all the 4 Khalifas, I don't want to pass a judgment on anybody. I'm not going to say who's best. Right? Allah knows who's the best. And the reason the ulama said that it's erroneous in itself because the companions spoke. And the companions agreed that Abu Bakr to be, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali. So they have ijma'. Right? So you can't go against that ijma'. But he wouldn't be considered saying anything heretical, and it's wrong, but not heretical because he's not insulting anyone. He's actually just doesn't want to insult anybody. So that's an example of that. Okay. If someone has images come to his mind when he thinks of Allah, but he believes Allah is not in a place and not in time and not similar to creation, is he sinful? No, you're not sinful for the ideas that come into your mind without your control. You're sinful for purposely thinking about those ideas. For example, it's very likely that a man could have a dirty thought about a woman come into his head. He's not sinful for that. He's sinful if he says, all right, you know what? I'm going to go to sleep, put my head on the pillow and think about this zina all day, all night long until I fall asleep. That, you could be sinful for that, right? I said could be because dwelling in your head is not like an objective, verifiable thing, right? So just between sinful and highly, highly discouraged. Okay. And most said sinful. Is there a difference between a grave and a shrine? Well, a shrine, I think in the Sharia there's no difference, but a shrine is usually a place where it's accommodating for people to sit down around the person, around the dead. And we talked about the etiquettes of visiting the dead yesterday. So you should go into yesterday's video and watch that. Secondly, if you want to study Tasawwuf with me, sign up to arcview.org. Today we have class at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're reading from Risalat al-Mustarshidin by Al-Harith al-Muhasibi, the treatise for the seekers of guidance, okay, by Al-Harith al-Muhasibi. Okay, so check that out and sign up for arcview.org, and you'll be able to immediately, you'll get the link for that. arcview.org, and it's the essentials package. It's just $12 a month package. And not, you don't only get just my class, you get a lot of other classes too. Okay. Who is a woman's wali if her father passed away? It's the next male relative that can check after her affairs from her dad's side. Then the mom's side. Okay. And then after that, if there's none of that, then anyone in the community can be a wali. Okay. The imam usually, or someone that the imam appoints. I taught some people how to be a wali. Okay. And I give them a checklist that you have to do. So let's say there is a sister, let's say she's already married. So that makes the obligation a little less heavy. She's already been married. She was divorced. And she wants to marry another guy. In our fiqh, she has to have a wali, but the wali can't stop her from doing what she wants to do. The wali then has a checklist. You need to go and check on any of the character of this man. So you need to go and find somebody that lived with him, worked with him in business, or traveled with him, or anything similar that would expose them to his interactions while tired, with money, and in day-to-day recourse. Don't go and ask the imam. Everyone behaves perfect in front of the imam. People always say to me, hey, you know so-and-so? Yeah, but everyone comes with their best face, in the masjid. No one's, cursing in the masjid. So I don't know people as they truly are. That's the truth. Everyone comes in their best behavior. So go and ask people in their life. So you need to at least 3 people who have this experience. All right? Then you need to go find out about his finances, because the Prophet ﷺ said, if you accept his character and his deen, isn't part of the deen that he covers the costs? Isn't that his religious obligation? So you don't need to just see if he prays and fasts. You need to see if will he be able to fulfill the obligation of paying the rent and food for this woman, right? So you need to make sure that she's not going to be harmed by marrying a guy. Oh, lo and behold, we're out of money on month 2 of the marriage, right? It's the wali's job. Number 5, in some cases, you need to get a health checkup, the medical records for this person. If there's any reason to believe that maybe he has a past and an STD. Okay. We don't ask people if you have zina, but we do have the right to ask, when you marry this woman, are you going to pass on an STD to her? That we have the right to ask. Okay. Number 6. What was number 6? Number 6. What was number 6? We said the 3 guys, then the finances, then the health record, and then finances also be the credit score to make sure you could rent something, right? And what was number 6? I can't remember number 6 was, but that was it. Basically those things. That will ensure that you know his character and his deen, because part of the deen is that he covers these costs and that he can be intimate. So you can't now marry a guy, then on the night of the marriage, all right, it's supposed to be all happy night. Oh, by the way, I have an STD. Oh, by the way, I can't rent an apartment. All right. Oh, because I have no credit score. Oh, by the way, ask your mom if she can cook for us because I don't have any money. Oh, number 6, negotiating the dowry. Number 6 is negotiating the dowry. So he goes, okay, what do you have in mind with the dowry? She says, I don't know, $1,000. He said, why would you sell yourself short for $1,000? Right? 10,000. He goes and negotiates. It's very awkward for a woman to negotiate her own dowry. Can a woman bleach her hair and is wudu valid? Yes. Bleach is not a ha'il, it's not a surface over the hair. Okay. It's permitted for a woman to dye her hair any color she wants, provided that color would not perhaps possibly get her accused or people think that she's part of some, political group. Like, for example, I would highly discourage a Muslim woman for dyeing her hair blue. They're going to think you're, supporting transgender or something like that. In general, dyeing your hair blue and having a septum ring is going to give people an impression that you're a woke person. And today, woke is a joke, right? And Cat Williams, he's got a special, right? On Netflix. Netflix itself is making fun of woke people now because they've gone so absurd, right? They've gone so absurd. This thing is going to go extinct in a short while, right? And no one's going to want to be associated with these illogical people, okay?
One question about the marriage contract.
Yeah.
If someone gets married, or before they knew all the requirements of the Shadee marriage. So, for example, say a sister didn't know that she should have asked for a dowry. Is the marriage still valid?
Yeah, it's valid. She just makes it up later. Let's take an example of two people they innocently get married, call it marriage. They believe it's marriage. It's open in the public, but they don't know the rules of marriage in Islam. They just make up those rules later on. So, for example, the no dowry was given from the man to the woman. So you make that up, all right? We did it and perhaps hadn't done the ijab and qabul in the exact wording, right? Then they make up that wording. Okay. Now, if they're Muslims and they did that, this is for non-Muslims.
I'm saying Muslims, they didn't know.
If Muslims didn't know.
Like, mom married them, but they didn't fall through.
Okay. Certain things can be made up. The dowry can be made up. But the ijab and qabul, that's a good question. If someone totally did the ijab and qabul, let's say an imam, he doesn't know much, but he's in the position of an imam. And they say, do you take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife? And he says, yes. Do you take this as your lawfully wedded husband? Yes. Okay, you're married. Takbir. But you didn't do the ijab and qabul in the past tense. So I have to ask about that. I don't know the answer to that. I know the dowry can be made up. And if they disagree on the dowry after the fact, now we're already married, then she gets the average of her friends. Who are your 5 best friends who got married of your age group? All right. Yeah, Fatima got 15K. Aisha got 12K. So-and-so got 20K. So-and-so got, 7K. Average that out. And that's the dowry.
If they've not gotten the dowry, do they have to get the dowry later on then?
They have to.
They have to?
They have to. They have to get a dowry. She could be easygoing on it, but they have to get a dowry. And her wali does the negotiation. What's the adab of good character between a student and the teacher? Oh, the teacher, number one, the first adab starts with the teacher. I believe, personally, when there's a relationship, parents and kids, ruler and ruled, landlord, tenant, boss, employee, teacher, student, that relationship usually goes well if the stronger authority knows what they're doing and does things right. Okay. You hardly give a reason for the lower person who is in lower status in the relationship. We're not saying status with Allah. We're saying in the relationship, there's a higher status and a lower status. Of course, that's one of the things the woke will have a reaction to. Okay, let's just have common sense in the world. There are bosses and there are employees. That's common sense. There are landlords, there are tenants. They're totally against any kind of authority. That's why this thing has to go extinct. It's not practical. We're not saying anyone's better. We're saying in this relationship, right, there's someone superior and someone inferior. Not superior and inferior. There's someone in authority and someone not in authority, right? I may have an employee, right? That employee may turn around and I may rent from him, right? It's possible. He's an employee in this profession. He's lower on the totem pole, let's say, hypothetically. But he has a little real estate business on the side. I may be his tenant. I may rent a storefront from him. So in that relationship, he's the one in charge. In this relationship, I'm in charge. Okay? So the one in the superior position has to know what his rights are and what the person in the inferior position's rights are. And then he must fulfill the relationship with leniency and having a good opinion. Right? Husn dhan. Fulfill the relationship. So that means if someone's a little late at payment, treat it with leniency. Ask for your payment. When you have some mercy and you're the authority figure, you are earning a lot of credit with that person to behave well. They're going to behave well with you. You're good to them. I always look at it that way. When there's a rebellion, it's usually the superiors who screwed up. When youth today are extremely rude with adults, I would probably blame the parents. The parent must have done something wrong. Just like the other one, the guy wants to have a boyfriend out you before you came. Guy wants to have a boyfriend, or the girl wants to, the boy wants to have a girlfriend. The dad lost the battle, and the mom is capitulating because she doesn't want to lose her son. What help the dad? The dad's probably at fault. No one wakes up and is so in love with a girl at 18 or 17, except that you probably lost this kid at 12 in terms of education, in terms of deen. It all started at age 12, probably, right? It just, people don't snap like that. It usually takes a long time. When there's a rebellion in a nation, chances are the force has wronged or not fulfilled it. So that's the first thing, is the teacher to realize these students are an honor from Allah. That Allah is sending people to learn the deen from me. I should be humble, right? I am the one getting honored by this relationship. They're not honoring me. Allah has honored me through them. If a teacher takes that attitude, pretty much nothing he could do after that is wrong. Because anything he does after that is an accident, right? Or a limitation or something. But once he has that perspective, he would not abuse these students. This is an honor that Allah gave me. And once he treats his students that way, how do you think they're going to treat him? Right? The student now must treat his teacher as the means that Allah chose for you to get near to him. Oh, slave, you want to draw near to me? Go to so-and-so. Allah chose. So the teacher and the student are both viewing each other as chosen from Allah. Allah honored me by making you come and ask me a question in deen. That's a way for me to earn reward and earn a position with Allah. And it's an honor to me, right? Likewise, the student views the teacher. Allah chose this person as my means to draw near to Allah. When both sides are viewing each other like this, they will instinctively treat each other with the best of manners. Okay? Minor things, a student should never hear a teacher say something and say, oh, I heard that story before. Not say that. He shouldn't finish his words for him. He shouldn't then compare him to other contemporaries. He shouldn't say, what do you think about this? Oh, because your colleague down the road said that. Because now, what are you doing? The comparison here? Are you doing a comparison? Are you experimenting with us? You take or you don't. You have come with the student should come with an assessment. This person is worthy of taking knowledge from. Okay? Why is he worthy of taking knowledge from? He acts upon it. He speaks well about the Quran. He has teachers. I asked about his teachers. I asked about his background. He is worthy of taking knowledge from. Now I'm going to take knowledge from him. You don't go and experiment. Let's see what he's going to say about, hey, Omar, can you stick in the eye operation? We haven't supported our sponsor for a long time. Okay. There. Ocean Retina. Keep it up there for a while. Ocean Retina. Come and join the Arabic program and get your eyes fixed. Okay. All in one package deal. Perillo Tours. Remember him? Remember Mario Perillo? So we should not then ask the sheikh a couple questions. If he answers correct, he's good. If he answers the way we like him to answer, he's good. Okay? That's not how it works. Sheikh should never take personal joy from his students. In other words, should never sit there enjoying their attention. Should never try to benefit from them. If he asks them to do something, it's a separate contract. He should not ask for favors. They should offer, but he should say no. Don't benefit from your students. If a sheikh comes Hey, Sheikh, what are you doing? I'm mowing the lawn. I'll mow the lawn for you. You're getting yourself into some hairy situation. Back in the past, fine. In the past, that Sheikh was probably your uncle. Probably your friend's uncle. You're all one village in the past. That was fine in the past, right? But these day and age, right, it's very shady territory when you get into that. Get very personal. Now they're serving you as a person. Are you some god or something? No. Teach them. I believe in independence from the student, right? Teach them. That's a relationship. You want your grass cut? Pay him, right? And even that, it's a problem. Now you go to the student and say, hey, you stink at cutting grass. You're fired. Now the student's messed up in the head. Sheikh fired me. So find somebody else even. I personally will be very cautious in all relationships and always view yourself as the best recipient. I'm the recipient of honor that Allah is letting me teach His servants of Allah, the deen, in whatever you're teaching them, right? And then hope that you discharge this relationship and the relationship is over someday and now I can go back to myself and worship Allah by myself. Imagine now the most honored person that you know says to you, hey, watch out for my baby for a few minutes. This is not something to enjoy, right? Imagine the greatest person in your mind alive today tells you, hey, I need you to watch out. Or forget that. Let's say, take care of my money for a few minutes. Here's a bag of gold. You're like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. This is not fun, right? This is an amana from my most beloved person that I want him to love me so much. And I love him already, right? You're going to be like counting down the minutes by when he takes his money back. That's an amana. That's how teachers should treat their students. Allah sent this abd to me, maybe to teach him something good. Maybe I want to discharge this relationship, okay, as soon as possible so that Allah is pleased with me. Umar ibn Khattab said, wish that you come into this dunya. Nothing. I wish that Allah would take me on the khilafah. My account, nothing for me, nothing against me. And he expanded the ummah so much. The ummah owes him so much, right? He did so much. But his intent was, I hope I have nothing against me. That's it. Even I have no thawab, but no sins. No hasanat, no sins. No good deeds, no bad deeds. I think you should do that with your kids. With all relationship Allah is sending your way. You have to treat that. Your kids, what do you mean your kids? It's Allah's creation that He caused to come and only used your physical DNA to make their physical body. But the nafs is from Allah. A whole different human being. Right? Every single kid that a person has in their family, it's a whole different human being, completely. Only thing is that half of your DNA was used to make their physical body, which will turn to dust. And then Allah charges you. You have to feed them. You got to care for them. Give them a good childhood. Educate them in the deen. This is a big, huge amana, right? Big, huge amana.
You know, some people, like a lot of parents, when they think about the fact that their children and them in Jannah, inshallah, if they go to Jannah, are going to be the same age, like they have such a weird, like they're like, no, like that's crazy. I can't imagine that. And I think part of it has to do with this like idea that you're talking about. Like they don't realize truly what their role is in the dunya. And they kind of see themselves as like always above the child and like, you know.
You're going to come on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Maybe your child turns out better than you with Allah. Then I need them. I need their shafa'ah on the Day of Judgment, right? Imagine, you know what else? When you treat kids, it's very easy to bully them around and smack them around. And sometimes they deserve it. Let me rephrase that. Most times they deserve it, right? But what holds you back, imagine in your mind the resurrection. And the tables are flipped now. You're no longer the superior. You're the same age, as Omar just said. You're the same age. You don't have as many good deeds, and he has a lot of good deeds. You would love to say, son, I need some of your good deeds. But now it's not son anymore. You and him are this. Yes, you are father and son, but you're equals now. Okay? He owes you nothing. In the Day of Judgment, nobody owes anybody anything. The obligations are done. He can turn his back on you. Or imagine in another world, right, where this is just a practice. It's not from the deen or anything. Imagine another world where he's like the boss and you're the employee and you need him now. How would you treat him? So it's not that you're going to tiptoe around the kid. You're just not going to abuse him. and you're going to make sure that you have a good opinion of the things what he does, have some husn al-dhan, without being a sloppy parent or a weak parent. Okay. Yeah.
So, in relation to the student-teacher dynamic, what's the proper way for a student to ask a teacher a question, and what's the proper way for a teacher to answer the student? Because I've seen sometimes certain teachers will say, well, a student will actually have a legitimate question, and then the teacher will say, "You're doubting my answer. I know everything. I have experience."
That's abuse.
That's abuse.
When you are a teacher of the deen, it's very different from being a murabbi. There's a difference. A murabbi is a very, very sensitive relationship. That relationship is basically you're holding this person to develop you spiritually. We're not talking about that. This is above our pay grade. That murabbi says you say this dhikr, say that dhikr, right? Do this, do that. And you should do it. Just like if you were to sign up for a physical trainer. Today you do 50 push-ups and that's it. Don't do anything else. Don't eat more than 1,200 calories. From these 1,200 calories, half of it has to be protein. You don't ask why. You're not going to get anywhere if every day you ask why. Just do it. Khalas. Right? So we also have spiritual trainers. It's called a murabbi. We're not talking about that because that's a different level. We're talking about the one who's just teaching a person the deen. Tajweed, akhira, fiqh. You don't have the right to tell them just trust me. Because he's there to learn verifiable information. Okay? The murabbi can say trust me. Okay? A physical trainer can say, listen, today and tomorrow, eat everything you want. You have to trust him. Okay? Next day he could say, listen, no more than 1,000 calories. You must trust him. But when you're learning verifiable information of Quran and Hadith, you don't say, trust me. This is the ruling, trust me. No. He is a student of verifiable information. Therefore, he has the right to know what the information is and why is that the case. However, the teacher has the right to say, I will tell you, but not now. When we get to that chapter. Because likewise, the teacher has the right to say when things are going to be said. Okay? All right? Many students will say, okay, what's the obligation of salah? Oh, is this sunnah or not? Hold on, stop. We'll get to the chapter on sunnah later. Right? There's obligations of salah today. Sunnah later. So the teacher must educate on what it is and why it is, but he doesn't have to do it at your timing. He can say, we're going to get to that at the later chapter. Because otherwise, we have chaos in the classroom. The halaqah becomes a chaos. Right? It's very important to know the difference between these things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Ibrahim asked questions, he answered them. It's not from a type of taqwa to have no knowledge about why I'm doing what I'm doing. Right? No, that's not what it is.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to offend Omar because we're both Hanafis here, but
Yeah.
I've seen this and again, this is not hating on the Hanafis.
Yeah.
In the Hanafi circles, the reason I've seen teachers get annoyed is that they always bring up hypotheticals.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, but.
Yeah.
And the teacher gets very annoyed, even the Hanafi teacher said, why are you bringing up these hypotheticals?
You don't have to answer hypotheticals. Malik, in his fiqh, you don't have to answer hypotheticals. Right? The teacher does not have to answer every question the student asks. What happens if this happens? What happens? What's your opinion of this group, that group? I don't have to answer that. I'm here to teach you what is the religion of Allah Ta'ala. What is the meaning of this Quran, of this verse? What is the meaning of this hadith? What is the meaning of this text? You have to answer hypotheticals. Sheikh, what's your opinion on Pakistani cuisine? It's the best. As long as you have a couple bottles of Febreze with you. Okay? It's not very good for your clothes. All right? They put all their effort on the savory, and they put no effort on the sweets except for kheer. Right?
Faluda, it's also Persian.
Faluda is a Persian thing, but they've dacified it by throwing in everything possible in the pantry. So vermicelli is in there. Fine. Kulfi is in there. Fine, no problem. All the different colors that were invented in this. Ruafza stuff. Okay. Tell me exactly why is there jello? Everything is fine. Up to faludas, everything. When I order faludas, by the way. That's how deep I am into into Desi culture, right? In our household, we order it. However, I say, hold the jello. Come on, right? We have a word in Arabic called ak. You ever heard this word, ak? When a child, let's say, cooks, and he says, throw everything in. All right, throw some peanut butter. Okay, fine. Throw some ice cream. Yeah, throw some sprinkles. Throw some whipped cream. All right, throw some jelly. At some point, it's called ak. You're just mixing everything together. So the faluda is all good, but the jello does not belong there. Okay. Oh, yeah, it comes with jello. Yeah, it comes with jello. Maybe they're innovating as time goes on. I think the philosophy is throw everything in there. So everything that new gets invented, they're just going to keep throwing it into the faluda, right? So I call that ak. Hold the jello. Keep it as it, and it's like an ice cream mix. Fine, no problem.
Very
but
ancient, like
hold the jello.
Very ancient dessert, actually.
Yeah.
I remember reading, like, I think it was the grandfather, either grandfather of the Imam Abu Hanifa. He gave Sayyidina Ali faludaj, like, as a gift, and then he asked him for
What
dua.
it is, yeah. What it was, though, it was much simpler. It was ice from the mountains and fruit cut up and crushed and put on top of that. That was faludaj. Then the Arabs said, what if we make this this fruit into a syrup? Then you put that on top, right? So it was a syrup on crushed ice, okay? And that's what the word sorbet comes from, shorbat. I just saw a lecture on this. Yeah, I saw a video on this guy. Who is that guy? Some Iraqi guy? You know, there's some people appear on your phone over the years and you benefit a lot from them. He's one of them. I don't know, some Arab guy gives Arab history like that. Maybe he's Persian.
He's Hispanic.
He's Hispanic?
Yeah.
Wow, he knows a lot of stuff. And his Arabic is like perfect. And he then said that the Italians added the cream part. Yeah, and that became the origins of ice cream. So. I think we got to go, unfortunately. We've done a nice stream here. How do you rate Egyptian mulukhiyya? It's good home cooking. I wouldn't go outside the house and have it. Right? It's not. That's why Egyptian restaurants never survive. Okay. They have no home run dish. And don't tell me kushari. No one is going to go out for dinner to have lentils, pasta, and rice with no meat in it. Okay. Name me one Egyptian restaurant that's flourished and succeeded. They don't succeed. They have a lot of good foods, but no home runs. The halal carts, that's not food, right? And it's not Egyptian food. It's gunk. It's rice with gunk. Do you ever ask why is the chicken so crushed up like that and covered in sauce? Because it's probably 3 months old, right? Anytime that sauce is applied over food, be suspicious. Okay. Why are you covering the chicken? Secondly, why is the chicken crushed up like this, right? Completely decimated. Where is the nice, wholesome piece of chicken? If it was fresh, you would never cut it up like that, right? If you had a nice piece of fresh chicken, you'd never cut it up in 1,000 little pieces and cover up with sauce. That sauce, you're covering up sins right there, right? That is gunk you're eating, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta go. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Wa tawasaw bil haqq. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wassalamu alaykum rahmatullah.
به شیفا